Well, let's bring in another friend of the show to weigh in on the state of the Warriors. Zach Brook of NBC Sports Washington joins us right now. Zach, thanks as always for being on the show. I know you were watching the Warriors last night, always keeping an eye on the competition, being a Celtics fan. But how much did that win over Houston give you some confidence that the Warriors can flip the switch as they've been saying they're going to do all season?
It was a really impressive win without Durant, but it didn't really impress me more than the game against the Suns kind of scared me, because that was a 17-point spread. That was a walk in the park, and that didn't go well. So last night against Houston, that's an impressive win, especially with one of your key guys, but it kind of evens out, and I'm more concerned over the loss than I'm impressed with that win.
Yeah, I hear you. Now, what do you think it is going on with the Warriors that kind of scares you the most, if you can get specific?
I think bringing Boogie in maybe just kind of messed up a good thing they already had going. Just kind of like bringing in that fifth all-star and kind of changing their their scheme and trying to bring it in, try to get better, even though they've already been better than everyone. And I think maybe it just didn't work. And he hasn't been the best on defense. I know a lot of teams have been exploiting him. I know Boston did a couple. They did it last week. And there's been, I think, what it looks like Steve Kerr and maybe Draymond Green maybe aren't seeing eye to eye right now. Maybe there's speculation over some of their free agents, what's going to happen in the offseason. Maybe just it's hard to three-peat. And I think they're seeing that now. And while they're still clearly the title favorite, they're going to have to fix that because it's not looking too good over there.
Well, Andrew Bogut is certainly going to throw a wrinkle into everything here. He's expected to join the team for the Pacers game coming up next Thursday, I believe it is. Do you think that Bogut might inject that energy and excitement and reminder of championships that the Warriors need right now?
I love how Bogut just kind of shows up towards the end of every season. That's great. But I think even though he's not there full time, he's got like a veteran presence in there, and maybe that should shore some things up, especially if he comes in with that second unit, kind of sets the pace. I still don't want to run into one of his screens, and I think maybe they might. Do you think there's any chance they put him in the starting lineup and move Boogie to the bench?
Yeah, absolutely.
Yeah, I think we have to see him play a little bit. I'll be honest, I haven't seen many Australian Basketball League games
not
year.
too many.
So we'll see.
It depends on the matchup.
Yeah, the one thing I do know, it could get tricky if Bogut comes back and actually plays well, and then Steve Kerr gets in this kind of conundrum. Well, Bogut is playing really well. Should we start limiting DeMarcus's minutes? But we know how would DeMarcus react to that? What do you think?
Well, you know DeMarcus has a personality, and that's well documented. But I think he also knows that his kind of like insertion into the lineup isn't really going as planned. And I think this year he really just wants to win a title. If he wants to win a title, he's going to do what's best for the team. And if it's best for the team is him coming in with that second unit and sort of being the focal point, then I can't see why he wouldn't want to do that rather than be the liability on offense and then just never really get going. And towards the end of the game, the team needs you on the bench when it's crunch time. So if that works, I think he should do it. He worked real well for Iguodala, and he took that bench role. He took it and he flew with it. If Boogie can do that, they could be really scary.
Zach, if the Warriors go out and get a second straight win against Oklahoma City on Saturday night, will that take away a little bit more of the sting of losing to Phoenix?
I think so. I think Oklahoma City right now is the second best team in the Western Conference. I think Paul George, he's in the top 3 for MVP, and Russell Westbrook's he's phenomenal. What else are you going to say? But I think that'll sort of get them back to even keel, and I think a big win like that will restore their confidence. Is Durant going to be playing in that game?
We don't know yet. Kate and I were talking about that earlier. We don't know if KD will be playing. They haven't announced yet. Earlier today, Steve Kerr said he's still day-to-day, so I don't think they're trying to show their hand. But you mentioned earlier it's not easy to three-peat. And I keep trying to tell myself that because there's just something in the back of my head always creeping up when I watch this team thinking the Rockets can take them out this year. Do you think I'm off base in saying that, or do you think the Warriors are still the clear-cut favorites?
I think the Rockets' slow start to the year, especially with Chris Paul's injury and him missing time and them just kind of like inserting different guys, going after grabbing Austin Rivers, going after grabbing Kenneth Faried, Capella's injury, kind of made people think, okay, this is not the same Rockets team as last year. And I think a lot of people started counting the Rockets out, and then Harden just started going bananas and putting up insane numbers every night and sort of repelling them. And then they've been on a roll. They've been, in my opinion, I think they've been the best team over the past probably 6-7 weeks. And I think they've been playing phenomenal. And I think the Warriors just haven't really gelled with the five of them getting into the lineup. And there's been a lot of kind of side stuff going on too. But I think the Warriors are still the clear-cut favorites. I think they're going to get it together. But I'm not really sure how Steve Kerr can maneuver all that.
Zach, since you're on the East Coast, let's talk some East Coast action. The Bucks and the Raptors are the only two teams in the entire league to clinch playoff berth so far. Are they, by default, then, the two scariest teams in the East?
I think the Raptors are. I think the Raptors right now, they're my favorite to win the East if Boston can't get it together. I think Milwaukee is having an incredible season. I think Mike Budenholzer deserves Coach of the Year. I think Giannis Antetokounmpo deserves MVP. But I think once you get to the postseason, I think with an extended stretch and a series of games, I think teams are going to figure out how to slow down Giannis. And when he's not the best shooter, and if they can shut him down, aside from him on the perimeter, I don't know who else is going to step up to lead them to victory. And if that's the case, I don't know how far. I don't think they're going to go out in the first round, but I don't know how much really better they got than last year. And Boston shut them down without two of their best players last year. If Giannis and somehow in the next month and a half can maneuver to grab a jump shot, I think they're the top team in the East. But if teams can figure him out and they really don't have a second guy that can step up and put the team on his back, I really don't know how far they can go. But the Raptors, I think Kawhi Leonard has been absolutely incredible. I think they made the trade when a lot of other teams were skeptical. They really didn't know how his injury was, and they've ran with it. I think he's been phenomenal. I think Pascal Siakam, in my opinion, I think Pascal Siakam should get Most Improved Player. He's been otherworldly, and I think he's just as important to that team as Kyle Lowry is. But I think the Raptors right now are the clear-cut contenders to come out of the East. But we'll see what happens with Boston. We'll see if Philly can get their thing going. But I'm not too high on Milwaukee. I think they're having a great season. But it really reminds me of the Atlanta team that Mike Budenholzer had a couple of years ago. That was the number one seed and really didn't go too far.
Wow, it's like you're in my head because I pretty much agree with everything you just said. I've been telling people all year that Bucks, great story, great team. I don't see the longevity in the postseason once a team can really game plan for them. I think Siakam is the most improved player as well. But I do see Boston as a team. I think they're the most talented team in the East. Let's say that, Boston, on paper. And I think if they get it together, that they can give the Raptors a run for their money. How do you see that if those two match up at Boston, Toronto, Eastern Conference Finals?
After basically the meltdown Boston had a couple weeks ago against the Clippers that really just kind of like made things sort of spiral out of control, I really started to see like, you know what, I don't think this team can get it done. And then last week with the Warriors game, they put it all together, and that was the best I've seen them play in years. But they were shooting lights out, and that's not going to happen. What I need to see out of them is I need to see them continue to be consistent. I need to see Gordon Hayward playing like Gordon Hayward of old and not Gordon Hayward from the beginning of the season where he looks like he really should be on the court. And you really need to see them kind of like gelling. You need to see them if a scuffle breaks out, you need to see them diving to go defend their teammate. You need to see them actually enjoying what they're doing and not just saying, okay, we're all pretty good, we can win these games, but going into every single game knowing, okay, we have the most talent in this conference, but we really haven't shown it yet. If they can do that, and I need to see a big win out of them versus a really good team where they're not shooting well, when they're having to maneuver and try to have to score, and when they're shooting 30% for the night and they can somehow still get the W. That's when I know that this team will put it together, because you can't rely on just shooting 60% from the floor and expecting to win every game, because when that doesn't happen, when the threes stop falling, you're not winning. But if that's the case, I think they can go far, but it's going to be however Kyrie Irving can take them, and that's the storyline. That's been the storyline the whole season.
Zach, sometime I want to have you on to just talk all basketball all night, because that's some expert analysis right there. But because it is right in the middle of NFL free agency, got to ask you a couple questions about that. The Raiders have been one of the busiest teams in the league so far. How would you grade their transactions early on in this free agency period?
Well, last year I was pretty skeptical when they did deal Mack for 2 firsts, and then when they dealt Cooper for another. And people started thinking, okay, what's really going on here? I know Gruden's got kind of like a 10-year plan, but is this really taking shape? And I see when they decided to go after Antonio Brown after the Steelers deal with Buffalo fell through, And the fact that they got him and didn't have to deal any of the 3 firsts they had this year, I think it's incredible. It's good to bring the fans in. People are going to go want to see this. And then they went in and got Tyrell Williams, who I think is another very underrated pickup. They went and got LaMarcus Joyner, who's incredible. He just had a really down year last year. And then today they cut bait with Jordy Nelson. And I'm not sure, did they re-sign Marshawn Lynch yet? That's the only other name that I was curious about. And they went out and grabbed the left tackle from New England. I think they're trying to sell tickets this year. They know that it's going to be kind of an interesting year when they're on the brink and they're not going to be there for very, very long. But I think they want to compete, and they're putting a team together, and I think they're going for it. And Antonio Brown, if he can get it done, it's going to be really, really cool. And they have a chest load of picks, so it's going to be crazy to see where they go. And I'm really excited to see if they end up trying to go after and kind of package those picks for Kyler Murray. I think the spotlight really moves from Cleveland right to Oakland.
Yeah, for selfish reasons at least, I'm very happy they got Antonio Brown because he'll be a lot of fun to cover. But one more NFL question for you. Everybody's talking about it. I want to hear your take on that Odell Beckham trade. Dumb of the Giants, smart of the Giants. What's your whole take on that whole saga that's transpired?
I would love to see the look on Odell Beckham's face when they said, "Hey, you move out of Manhattan, you're moving down to Ohio." But I don't. If he's cool with the move and he wants to go play with his former teammate, that's awesome. But I don't think anybody saw it coming. I know there was some speculation. I think Jay Glazer was talking about it a couple weeks ago, but I don't think anybody really thought those talks were going anywhere. And for what the Giants received, for the fact that they gave them all that money last year, and they really said we're going to go in it with this year, they decided to bypass choosing a quarterback last year with the second pick, taking Saquon Barkley, who's incredible, but he's not a quarterback. Eli Manning, I'm almost certain his contract was guaranteed either today or yesterday, so they're shelling him out close to $18 million when you could have gone for somebody on the market. You could have move up. I know they're the main team that's looking at Dwayne Haskins from Ohio State, and they're rebuilding, but I'd rather be rebuilding with one of the best wide receivers rather than go out and spend $38 million to grab 31-year-old Golden Tate, who's been on, this is going to be his third team in 2 years. So I'm not really sure where that comes, and I'm surprised that's the best offer they could do. It's great for Cleveland. I think Cleveland, that was an amazing offer by John Dorsey. I'm not really sure what the Giants are doing because they let Landon Collins walk, then they moved Beckham for nothing after Gettleman said, I think over the combine or in the last 6 weeks, we didn't sign him to an extension to trade him. Well, you just did that. So I don't really know.
All right, Zach. Well, TBD. We look forward to having you on to talk a lot more NFL free agency and basketball as both those 2 seasons roll on. Thanks for being with us tonight.
Thanks, Zach.
Appreciate it. Thanks.